Good morning and welcome to Splash Live, Greater West Bloomfield's only local morning show, giving you exclusive access into people, businesses, and events in our community. We're bringing you this show live, daily, weekdays at 9:30 a.m. with your host, me, Maddie Muschen. Before we dive into today's show, every week we highlight someone, an educator, student, business, or organization from our Greater West Bloomfield community going above and beyond. If you would like to submit an entry for someone, you can scan the QR code on the screen and fill out the Google form with the person's name, their contact information, and reasons why you think they should be recognized here on the Splash Live for our Person of the Week. Now let's go check out what's going on in our Greater West Bloomfield community. The first event we want to look at are the Connect Center events. The Connect Center is located in Orchard Mall in West Bloomfield. They have a ton of great events and activities for our seniors in our community. Some of those events this week are their Nature Walk at Dusk this Wednesday night. Here you can walk around with animals and enjoy being active at dusk. The walk will be an easy terrain hike that will only be about a mile long. You may be able to even spot some animals and learn more about them from a West Bloomfield Parks naturalist. They also have their upcoming Senior Resource Group talk time this coming Wednesday. The Senior Resource Group is a network of professionals connected through the West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce. These look to connect the seniors and the families with knowledge and resources on relevant topics in today's environment. The specific talk time theme is Keep on the Beat to Better Health, where you will be able to get active by working out with Dina Raptis from Drums Live. You can also talk about financial health and taxes with representatives from Block Advisors, and you can talk about safety for seniors with Chief Patton from the West Bloomfield Township Public Police Department. For all these events, you can register for the West Bloomfield Parks under the registration tab. Our next event is going to be happening tonight. We will be airing the 4th annual State of the Community's Address live here on Civic Center TV and also on the radio at 89.3 Lakes FM. This event will bring the 4 leaders of our communities from Orchard Lake, Sylvan Lake, Keego Harbor, and West Bloomfield together to talk about topics that are impacting our Greater West Bloomfield community. You can tune in to hear your local leaders talk about topics such as the coronavirus pandemic, infrastructure, housing, and development at 7 p.m. here on Civic Center TV. This event will also be available on our on-demand page at civiccentertv.com after the event if you're unable to tune in live here on Civic Center TV at 7 p.m. If you have an event you would like us to feature here on the Splash Live, you can send us a message on our social media pages at Civic Center TV and Facebook at Civic Center TV 15. Coming up, we'll be talking with Azoury, Naturalist Supervisor for West Bloomfield Parks and Recreation. But before that, the West Bloomfield girls basketball team had an exciting game in the regional finals against Grosse Pointe North last Thursday. They proved that they are the team to beat in the state championship run after beating Grosse Pointe North 59-31 to advance to the quarterfinal game tomorrow night. Let's go check out some of the highlights of this game. The West Bloomfield women's basketball team continued their run for the state title in their regional final game against Grosse Pointe North at West Bloomfield High School. After coming off a big win in the semi-game against Mercy, the Lakers knew that it was only going to get harder with each game. The Lakers went into the regional final game with a 21-1 record, their only loss being their first game of the season to Dexter. Grosse Pointe North was the underdog in the game with an 18-4 record. The team hit the court running and showed Grosse Pointe North that they were going to be a challenge to take down. After some back and forth in the first quarter, the Lakers seemed to struggle offensively against North's skilled defensive strategy. Even with the team not playing lights out, the Lakers headed into the half up 24-18. After a halftime pep talk by Coach McAllister, the Lakers caught their stride in the second half and found their rhythm as a team. With outstanding performances by their starting lineup, the Lakers were able to increase the lead over the Norsemen and win the regional final game 59-31, advancing to the quarterfinal game against Troy. We talked about the team's performance with head coach Darren McAllister after the game.
It feels pretty good, but we know we had a very, very sloppy first half. Definitely not our kind of basketball, but we took their best punch, even playing sloppy. Proud of our team in the second half. A little upset that we were playing individual type of basketball the first half and not playing discipline, but we matured the second half and did what we were supposed to do to get the win. Well, I know, number one, they're a pretty good team. They didn't get here because somebody liked the color of their uniform, so we knew they were going to be a good team. But it's just the first half, we didn't play our style of basketball. Not to take anything away from them. We just didn't play our style of basketball, especially on the offensive end. We were turning the ball over. We weren't getting our spacing. And after having a few choice words with them at halftime, they got it going, and we played our style of ball the second half. I went around to each individual player, and I let them know what they need to do and what they were not doing, the Davis children included, and we saw a different team in the second half. I do want to say this. We need to get back to trusting each other. We had gotten to that point where it was ultimate trust, but when you have a talented team, everybody wants to show, hey, I can do this, I can handle this in this situation. That's not what got us here. So we need to really just get back to trusting each other, being disciplined, and playing West Bloomfield style of basketball.
The team plays next in their quarterfinal game against Troy at University of Detroit Mercy at 7:30 p.m. Reporting for the Splash Live, I'm Maddie Muschin.
Congratulations to the entire Lakers team for winning the regional finals last week, and good luck to the West Bloomfield basketball team as they take on Troy at University of Detroit Mercy tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. in the quarterfinal game to advance into the semifinal game into the state championship run. Later on, we'll be taking a look at what some of the student athletes love about going to school at West Bloomfield High School. But before that, we'll be talking with Lauren Azoury, Naturalist Supervisor for West Bloomfield Parks and Recreation. All that and more after this short break.
We'll be right back with the Splash Live.
In the face of COVID-19, staying healthy is important. And now the same is true as we face the flu. Influenza has the potential to infect millions, putting lives and the healthcare system at risk. Fortunately, it's easy to protect yourself. The flu vaccine is safe and effective, and with COVID-19 still spreading, it's essential. To see how you can hit this virus head-on, visit michigan.gov/flu.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you want to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
I don't like getting sick. The virus will die. It will be easy to not catch it. Keep my family safe and keep playing soccer. Because I love being vaccinated.
What's your hope for everyone?
I hope everybody gets the vaccine. To keep safe and strong. Be happy, having fun everywhere. Everyone stay safe and hope you get the vaccine.
And now, back to the Splash Live.
Welcome back to the Splash Live. I'm your host, Maddie Muschin. As it's getting a little bit warmer, but there's still some snow on the ground, we're looking to spring forward with some daylight savings. It's now time to talk with our monthly West Bloomfield Parks Naturalist segment, where we're going to learn some more about nature and that surrounds us in our greater West Bloomfield area. Joining us today to talk about that is Lauren Azoury. Lauren, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Hi, Maddie. Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So, Lauren, as we are springing forward, daylight savings time has finally hit. We are looking now into spring, and that means that the spring wildlife will be out and about in our greater West Bloomfield community. Can you talk a little bit about some of the spring wildlife that we can look forward to seeing this spring?
Absolutely. I've already started hearing some of the birds singing more, and pretty soon, hopefully, we'll get to hear our spring peepers, which are the first frogs to sing in the spring. Things are definitely warming up, and the light cycles are changing. So they go by, nature goes by the light. They go by the sun, the circadian rhythm. So they don't have iPads or, Alexa to tell us that spring is here. They go by the light cycles, and it is changing. The days are getting longer. So there's definitely gonna be some great signs of spring out there.
So, Lauren, with the spring wildlife that is going to be out and about, sometimes people in our greater West Bloomfield community might come across some animals that are either injured or abandoned. You guys get calls at West Bloomfield Parks with concerned citizens saying, what do I do now that I have found this injured or abandoned animal? Can you tell us a little bit about what first they should look for to tell if an animal is either injured or if they're just abandoned?
Yeah, I would say the most common phone calls we get in the spring are about baby animals because, of course, spring is when all the new babies are being born out there. Oftentimes it's baby rabbits or fawns, as well as birds. And so the one thing that I always say, everyone has the best intentions, of course. Everyone wants to help, which is great. But oftentimes, often than not, the wildlife is better left wild. So we need to just learn a little bit about these spring babies and what they need and what's happening in their lives so that they might not actually need our human interaction or our human help. They probably have an adult nearby and we just don't see them. So the best example is a fawn. I oftentimes get calls that say, I have a fawn, it's been abandoned, it's in my yard and it's been there and I haven't seen the mom. So what happens with fawns is when they're born with no scent at all and they've got great camouflage. So they're meant to be left alone. Sometimes their moms won't come back throughout the whole day to even check on them. And that's actually to protect them. So the mom has a scent and predators can follow scents. The baby does not have a scent. So the more often the mom comes to the baby, it actually puts the baby at higher risk for predators. So what we think might be an abandoned fawn, most often the mom is nearby watching and just not coming close. And they usually come to visit dawn and dusk. So what we think of as an abandoned fawn is usually just a fawn that's got good camouflage and is staying safe from predators. Similar with the baby bird. So a lot of times in the spring, birds are found on the ground and they're actually learning to fly. It's called a fledgling. So if you find a baby bird that is on the ground, if it has any kind of feathers whatsoever, and it might be like flopping around, might look a little awkward to us, really it's just learning. So a nestling bird with no feathers and eyes might be still closed, that might need some human help. You can look for the nest up in the tree and place it back up in the tree. You know, one of those common old wives' tales is that if you touch a bird, the mom will not come back because of scent. But actually, most often, baby birds or even adult birds don't have a great sense of smell. So us helping that bird put it back in the nest is not going to deter the mom from coming back to care for the bird or bring it food later. But if it is a bird with feathers flopping around on the ground, it's usually just learning, and the mom is nearby looking on, and we just can't see them.
Lauren, for those animals that may be injured to our eyes, obviously you can tell if an animal is either injured in comparison to if they're just abandoned. What do you do if you find an injured animal in our community?
Yeah, so at West Bloomfield Parks, our naturalist staff is always happy to answer questions. So when in doubt, just give us a call. It's 248-451-1900. A lot of our customer service staff has been trained in how to answer these kinds of phone calls, as well as our naturalist staff. And we can kind of help you walk through what might be the scenario. Is this something that needs intervening, or is it something that the animal, this is a natural behavior? But if it is very visibly injured, limping, acting erratically, things like that, you would need to call a licensed rehabilitator. So even most nature centers don't even have a licensed rehabilitator on staff. Some do. Howell Nature Center is a great resource for that. We often call them as well if we have injured wildlife, but we do not have a licensed rehabilitator. By this DNR has to give those license, and you go through testing and training for that. So you can look on the DNR website, and there's a list of licensed rehabilitators listed by county, and they are a wealth of knowledge and a great resource, as well as they do take in wildlife in the spring if they are truly injured. So you can always call your local naturalist or your local nature center, kind of talk through the steps, figure out what needs to be done. And then after that, you'd need to find a licensed rehabilitator if it turns out that wildlife is actually truly abandoned or is injured.
And Lauren, I feel like, me personally, in the spring, you may come across either a raccoon or another animal that you see during the day that sometimes you don't see during the day. I've heard from other people that if you see a raccoon or something like that during the day, it might be injured or it might have some issues. For you guys at West Bloomfield Parks on the naturalist staff, if you get these phone calls where there are certain animals, are there certain animals that you should look out for during the day that don't normally come out during the day?
That is a great question, Maddie. I'm so glad you asked, because that is true. Those are, a raccoon is a nocturnal animal, most often found at night. Same with opossums. But in the spring, a lot of animals like to break those rules that we know because they're opportunistic. So if there's food available during the daytime and they know where it's at and where they can get it, they will be awake during the day sometimes. So, and then also opossums are out mating and having their babies this time of year. So they actually can be found more actively, which is unfortunately sometimes why you do see more of them as roadkill right now, because they're more active coming up here this time of year for mating season. But if you do see one, like usually raccoons, if they are acting erratically, like they'll like go round and round in loops or look like they're dizzy. Sometimes they have that like bubbles by their mouth. That could mean that they have distemper or rabies. And you would want to definitely give a phone call to the DNR, because oftentimes what they'll do is we'll get those tested so that we know if we have an issue in our area or not. So yeah, always give us a call and we'll talk you through it for sure. But if you see a raccoon during the day, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has rabies or distemper. It may just be out finding food or taking care of its new babies for the springtime. But if it's acting erratically, looks dizzy, spinning in circles, that's usually a sign that there's something wrong with it and it would need some help, as well as getting tested so that we can know if there's an issue in our area.
Lauren, as we wrap up here today, are there any other fun events or programs that you guys are doing with the Naturalists at West Bloomfield Parks that you wanted to share with our audience at the time?
Yeah, so we have our outdoor natural play area, which is at our Recreation Activity Center. And there's lots of hands-on learning that happens there, a great sensory garden. And even though it's still winter, there's lots of fun things to play with in there and explore. And then it's connected to our nature room, which has been closed for a long time because it's not that large of a room. But we have been able to slowly open that back up, and families, 1 or 2 families can come in one at a time to explore and meet our animal ambassadors, like our live turtles and our live frogs and things like that. So we do have open hours that are posted on our website at westbloomfieldparks.org. They're free, no registration, so families can come in. Our next open hours is actually tomorrow from 12 to 2. And then if we piqued your interest today, like learning about this rehab situation and how do wildlife rehabbers do it and what do they know, we have a wildlife rehabber that wants to share their knowledge with us. So our naturalist staff teaches a lot of our programs, but it's great to partner with local conservation partners. And we have an instructor coming who was formerly with the DNR, and she is a licensed wildlife rehabilitator. That's April 9th, and she'll be doing a talk for adults all about wildlife rehab, what it entails, and what she does this time of year. So that's a pre-registration, but it is free.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning, Lauren. We always appreciate having you on Splash Live.
Thanks, Maddie. Take care and enjoy the start of spring soon here.
Thank you. You too, Lauren. Once again, I was joined by Naturalist Supervisor for West Bloomfield Parks and Recreation, Lauren Azoury, talking about springtime and what to do if you see an animal who is either injured or abandoned here in our community. There are so many things to love about West Bloomfield High School that students and staff love that we couldn't even fit it into one video, but the student athletes at West Bloomfield told us a few things about they love about going to a great high school as great as West Bloomfield. Let's go see what they had to say.
There are so many things to love about attending high school at West Bloomfield. So we asked some of their student athletes who signed their national letter of intent what their favorite thing about going to high school at West Bloomfield is.
Most definitely the community. Like, I have such great friends, such personal relationships that I've built with a multitude of people. There's so many people here to support me. So I just love that there's so many friendly people here, and I really feel a sense of community when I come to the school.
My favorite thing about going to school here, basically the education. The education is really good. I came from another district, and I can really say that it's very much a difference between West Bloomfield district and the other districts. And it's filled with loving people. Everybody here is caring. Everybody here treats you like family. So, yeah.
I love everything. I love the medical mentorship program that I'm in here. I love the National Honor Society program that I'm in. And the school is just an overall great environment. The people here are nice, the teachers are great, and the school is just wonderful.
It's the community, it's very diverse, so you can have friends, all different types of ethnicities, just family, friends, and then everybody, when you meet them, they just really cool, everybody clicks, no one really hates anybody. It's a really nice environment, and when you go here, it allows you to have fun, just be a happy student.
just the people I've met, honestly, relationships I've built. Growing up, I was usually like a kid that's to myself, and to really know that I have a second family, like the Williams and Michaela and all of them, it really does mean a lot that I have people that are there for me. Just the fact that I have a relationship. To me and my mom, that's my best friend. To know that I have another family that cares for me just like my mom does, that means a lot. Because it means something different to hear someone else saying they believe in me.
My favorite thing is definitely being a swamp leader. The student sections at WB are great. Being able to lead them is even better. I love the student body here. It's so spirited and so welcoming, and it's definitely been a great 4 years.
You get to see a lot of new people every day, so yeah. My favorite thing about going to the high school is that it's so diverse and you meet so many people, and you just build a lot of connections, especially senior year. You just grow very close with your senior class, and it's very fun.
So take it from the student athletes. There are so many things to love about going to high school at West Bloomfield. Reporting for the Splash Live, I'm Maddie Muschamp.
Thank you to all those stellar student athletes who told us a little bit about what they love about going to West Bloomfield High School. Joining us now is Ryan West, principal at Roosevelt Elementary School, to talk about his position and what he loves about Roosevelt. Ryan, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me today.
So Ryan, could you begin with talking about your role as the principal at Roosevelt Elementary School here in the greater West Bloomfield area?
Sure. So my role as principal, honestly, it's probably one of the best gigs out there as far as what you get to do. I get to interact with the students, which I love every day. I also have a phenomenal staff here at Roosevelt Elementary with a lot of programs that we're able to provide for our students. And I get to work with them too. I get to lead them and work in curriculum and just kind of have the whole gamut of what we get to do to help provide our students in West Bloomfield with really positive, good opportunities.
Ryan, can you talk to us a little bit about Roosevelt Elementary School? We have a couple of great elementary schools here in the greater West Bloomfield area, but what is it about Roosevelt that people should know and come to learn more about Roosevelt Elementary and why they should send their children there?
Sure, and I would agree, we do. We have phenomenal elementaries in West Bloomfield, and Roosevelt is one of those that provides a couple unique opportunities to students. First and foremost, we're a K-5 building, so we're the only K-5 building in the district. We have an emphasis on STEAM education, which integrates the science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And our teachers have kind of a deliberate approach to put a real-world experience in front of our students. So we look for ways to build projects. We look for ways to integrate sciences and social studies into the other content areas and provide them with, those unique opportunities. In addition to that, we also house the district magnet program here at Roosevelt. So that is a gifted and talented program for our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students, where they each, there's one cohort of students, one group of 3rd graders, one group of 4th graders, and one group of 5th graders that work in a multi-age, large learning area, and they stay with those teachers for 3 years in kind of an accelerated program.
Ryan, with the COVID-19 pandemic tuning down a little bit, could you talk to us about how the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted you guys at Roosevelt and looking to the future now with the mask mandate being over, how that has impacted you guys?
Certainly. So I would say, first and foremost, through the entire pandemic, our district was very innovative, I believe, in providing opportunities for our students to just continue on education the best that we possibly could, given the circumstances that we were dealt. Staff did a phenomenal job continually putting the needs of students first. The refreshing thing is that now with the mask mandate recently being lifted, school pretty much feels like school used to before the pandemic started. So we're back in school 5 days a week. We're here full days. Students have the option to wear a mask, and certainly we respect that if they would like to, but it's not mandated. The same for our staffing. They may choose to wear a mask, or maybe if they're working with a group of students that does wear masks, they may put a mask on, but again, it's not mandated. And for us at Roosevelt, we're getting back to the project-based learning. We're getting back to having students, work in groups, collaboration, some of those things that, we did have to kind of, I don't want to say miss out on, but just be innovative in how we provided those opportunities for our students when we did have to, have more social distancing and the masks and things like that.
Ryan, with some of those hands-on activities now being a little bit more open and being able to do those in the classrooms, could you give us some insight into some of the different programs and projects that the kids in Roosevelt are working on right now?
Certainly. So actually, last Friday, we had an event called Day of Design, where our entire school goes through the design process, and we have sponsors and volunteers from across the community that work with us, like Sunberg Farrar, Lowe's, Lawrence Tech University, and they bring specialists into the building, and then students meet with them, and they make a design prototype. So they all participate in Michigan Design Prize annually every year, and as part of that, they build a product and they design it, and then they actually make a prototype. So we were very collaborative on Friday. We have, right now, the hallways are full of probably 300 to 400 projects that are cardboard and all sorts of wonderful creations. And what's fascinating to see is that as the community members come in, you get to see the creativity in the minds of young students, which sometimes as adults, I don't think I would solve that problem that way, but watching a first or a second grader figure out how to design and create something is just phenomenal. And so we're always trying to give them those opportunities. And as you alluded to, now that COVID is relaxing a little bit, we can group up more and have some of those collaborative opportunities for our students.
Ryan, as we look into the spring and a little bit into the end of the school year, could you talk about some of the events that you guys have coming up to wrap up this semester of school?
Certainly. So right now it's March's Reading Month. So March is celebrated really across the entire state. And I know in all of the West Bloomfield schools, we have lots of events that are taking place. We have a virtual event this week where we're going to do some things with our families to promote the importance of reading in school and do some fun activities and games. We're having guest readers come back in. And then additionally in the spring, as the weather starts getting nicer, some of our students will start getting outside and doing some of that science exploration again. And we'll have a STEAM event in the spring also that right now probably is virtual, but again, as we move in a positive direction, we may be able to do something here in person at the school in the spring. So that would be wonderful.
Ryan, as we wrap up here, if someone is interested in sending their child to Roosevelt Elementary School, or if they just have some questions or want to reach out, is there anything that you want to share with us at this time about how they can contact the school and also anything else coming up on their horizon?
Certainly, yeah. So I would say the first step would be go ahead and check out the WB website. The main school website is a great resource. It talks about all of the schools. It talks about the uniqueness of the different schools that we have here, the opportunities that we provide our students, the great diversity that we have within our school district. And there is a dedicated page specifically to enrollment and to even kindergarten enrollment if you have a younger student and this is your first student enrolling. You always can call the office, the main office at Roosevelt. My secretarial staff is phenomenal, and they are always willing to help answer any questions that are available. Or if you wanted to shoot me an email, again, my contact information can all be found on our website, and we're always happy to provide any information we can to our parents to try and see if Roosevelt is the best fit for your student or if WB in general is a good spot for your student to be.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning, Ryan. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Once again, I was joined by Ryan West. He's the principal at Roosevelt Elementary School, talking to us about his position, as well as some of those great programs and events that they have coming up to wrap up the school year at Roosevelt. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank you again to Lauren Azoury and Ryan West for joining us this morning. A special thanks to our Zoom producer, Jared Clark, for coordinating the Zoom and making sure our guests joined us. As always, a big thank you to Calvin Brown, our board operator, for making the show possible each and every morning. And thank you for joining me as we explored all of the people and events going on in our greater West Bloomfield community. As always, you can make sure to tune in live on Civic Center TV, on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99, Monday through Friday at 9:30 to catch up on what's going on in our greater West Bloomfield community. You can also watch our show every morning on My Michigan TV. It's a new streaming service that covers all of the great people and events happening around Michigan. You can head over to mymindtv.com, or you can download the free My Michigan TV app on your smartphone or smart TV. You can also check out all of our archived stories and interviews by visiting civiccentertv.com. Follow us on our YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram page. For all of our friends in Orchard Lake, Sylvan Lake, Keego Harbor, and West Bloomfield, I'm Maddie Muschin. Thank you for watching The Splash Live.